All right, so this week we are playing Harvest Moon. And I know how you feel about Harvest Moon.
The new Harvest Moons.
Yeah, they are your favorite series
I
ever, and you don't think
I
that
don't
they're boring at all.
I don't mind. Here's the thing. I don't mind Harvest Moons. They're just not games for me. I like that people like them. And it's not that I like wouldn't play them. I just have so much other shit to play because I know you got to sink, 20, 40, 80 hours into a game like this to build it up. Like I enjoy Animal Crossing. I played a lot of Animal Crossing. Every edition of Animal Crossing actually.
Which is really funny because it's like I look at Animal Crossing and I'm like, I don't get how people like Animal Crossing. And then I sit here with Harvest Moon and I'm like, this is the most enjoyable game ever.
Yeah. Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons,
It's
shit.
so
What
you can't call it Harvest Moon anymore. And
right, we have
that
to
is like a fun story in and of itself.
is this Natsume who
So this is Xseed
Oh,
who
Exceed, yeah,
publishes
yeah,
this.
yeah. Okay.
Natsumi does Harvest Moon.
Yes.
You The difference is that if you liked the original Harvest Moon games and you thought that they weren't very good anymore, it's because those aren't really Harvest Moon games anymore.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what I well, that's why we got Stardew Valley because the dude who made Stardew Valley was like, I really like the Harvest Moon games, but they kind of weren't what I'm looking for, and I think I can maybe do it better, and I can add all these kind of cool features and take a little bit of like other nods from other games like Diablo and other like action RPGs, but then at the same time, throw some little bit of Animal Crossing stuff in there and like mix the best of like all the
all
Harvest Moon
all of
clones
this other
together.
stuff in there with it, all these other games that he really
Hmm.
really liked. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, this is just like it acknowledging Stardew Valley finally." And I'm looking at it and I'm like, "No, not really. This is
Well,
this is just fucking Animal Crossing being fucking animal or I'm sorry, Harvest Moon fucking being Harvest Moon. This is
yeah.
it
Well,
it's
there's been a few uh, Story of Seasons games. I know there was one on 3DS that I never played.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of the series. I have a lot of these fucking games. Like more than I would care to admit in any amount of company. And it like even among other fucking Harvest Moon fans, I probably wouldn't admit how many of these I fucking have. It's like
Sure.
it's sort of that many of them. Um,
Yeah, I've always been aware of the Harvest Moon games ever since it was on. It kind of had a cult following on Super Nintendo, then
yep,
the N64
yep.
version kind of like also had a and then even like the Game Boy Color version. I remember playing a little bit of the Game Boy Color version on like an emulator millions of years ago, and that was like, oh, okay, I kind of see where this is going. I kind of like this,
Yeah.
and then it just has evolved to all these other spin-offs now. But I heard I haven't played any of the recent Harvest Moons at all, but that's the what I've heard from fans and from players and from critics saying like it's slowly been losing itself in terms of quality. But then you get things like
So
Story of Seasons and these other games and Stardew Valley that kind of been better than its own
okay,
yeah
so
better.
here's the problem is that everyone's like, "Oh yeah, no, Harvest Moon's like lost its way." Yeah, it's because Harvest Moon isn't Harvest Moon. Literally, Harvest Moon isn't Harvest Moon anymore. Um, uh, Natsume lost the rights to publish Harvest Moon. It's because that's not the name of the series in Japan. It was, that was like a '90s translation thing.
Mhm.
Um, it like roughly translates. I think the closer translation is actually something like Story of Seasons. So when they lost the right to translate it, Xseed picked it up.
Mm.
So the real Harvest Moon game is actually Story of Seasons. But Natsume said, "Well, we still own the right to this title, Harvest Moon, so we're just going to keep publishing games that look like Harvest Moon but aren't
Sure.
actually Harvest Moon."
And there's been a ton of Harvest. I mean, there's like multiple versions on like every console since, well,
Yeah.
Super Nintendo.
Well,
Like
and
there's
that's like
even
this.
a couple on Wii and DS and 3DS and PS4. There's been a lot of them.
Well, yeah, and if you think about it, like when was the last time that you saw like a weird licensing thing like that kind of happen that you were just
Right.
like this company lost the rights to sort of like publish a game, but they were like, well, we still technically have the naming rights, so we're just going to kind of lean into that and keep publishing under the name because why not?
Yeah.
And
When did you ever play the Rune Factory games? Because that's the other
oh my
spin-off.
god, I love Rune Factory. Like, so I didn't get the weird thing about Rune Factory is I didn't get Rune Factory until very, very recently. Like I owned a bunch of them because they were Harvest Moon games, and like
Mhm.
I like Harvest Moon games, so I would buy them. Um, but I would
I
just and I'd keep trying to play them, and I'd just be like, just kind of feels like a really lame RPG with Harvest Moon elements in it. And it's like for some reason I picked up Special for the Switch and Harvest Moon 4 Special for the Switch, and for whatever reason I just kind of because I got it for like a song. It was like like $25. I got it like really super cheap,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I was like playing it because I didn't have anything else to do at the time. It was like this really dry season for the Switch last year. It was during lockdown actually,
Sure.
and there was like nothing else out. And I picked it up, and I was just like, "Oh wait, there's like a lot to this game," and kind of just started sinking a lot of time into it. And yeah, that game is actually really interesting. Um, But that's sort of like one of my complaints with how the Persona series sort of started ending up in the later games is that they focus too much on one aspect of it that they like. Oh well, the social aspect is really really good, but
Mhm.
the dungeon aspect you know needs improvement. It's not as
Mhm.
good of a dungeon crawler as it used to be. So
I
unfortunately.
bought I bought, Innocent Life on PSP because it
The
was
futuristic Harvest Moon,
the
yeah.
futuristic Harvest Moon, so it's not a Harvest Moon, but they still snuck it into the title, and I bought the game for, literally $5 because it was on clear well, not clearance, but there's this dollar store here in the Midwest called Five Below. I don't know if you have them out by you, but it's a
I'm
dollar.
aware of Five Below, yeah.
Yeah, it's everything is $5 or below, right? And so they do have an occasional games, and the games like they had a bunch of Skylanders and shit back in the day, years ago. But many years ago, when Five Below was kind of being born, it's like one of the later dollar store stores. But anyway, they had a bunch of PSP games, and one of them was Innocent Life, Futuristic Harvest Moon. And I was like, oh, $5, what the hell? Like, well, I'd be dumb
Yeah.
not to buy this. So bought it, never played it, never took it out of the packaging, and then I sold all my PSP games, or a lot of my PSP games in like a big bundle to some dude or whatever. So I never got a chance to play it, even though I bought it.
That
I owned it
is
for a little while
a weird game too.
because they've also ported it on PS2. I don't know which one came. I think the PSP
The
game
PSP
came
one
out
came
first,
first, yeah,
and
it
then they
did.
just because they did that with a handful. There was a couple of like Logan Shadow, Siphon Filter games. They eventually ported to PSP, and like Tokolo Bot or whatever the hell that game was. There was some kind of
Yeah.
puzzle game. So they did it with a handful of PSP games, porting it to PS2, which was
Yep.
kind of weird versus the other way around. But yeah, this is one of them.
So speaking of PSP, they are shutting down that store.
Yeah, PSP, Vita, and PS3
Yeah.
soon.
So the death of your for me that just symbolizes That is the death nail in the all digital future for me.
Yeah, it's only gonna get worse. Now,
That for me is, yeah, so there's no reason I ever really want to buy things digitally, because the Vita, there were really good things that only exclusively came out digitally on the Vita.
yep,
Um
correct.
and the pro well, so, people were like, "Oh, just download it, you'll have it forever." Yeah, well, the one thing that people don't, readily fucking admit is, first off, Vita games are big. Second
Yes.
off,
Yep.
their memory cards aren't that fucking big.
Yeah,
And
super expensive.
they're super expensive. And even worse is, the biggest one that you can really get is you import, what is it, a 32 or a 64 from Japan?
You Yeah, I have I have, like,
Whatever
2 4 gigs and then, like, one 16, and then I do have I think it's one
w-
32 gig,
whatever
and
the biggest one is, I had
yeah,
to import from
yeah,
Japan.
I
The
think that
problem
is
is,
yeah.
after the 8 gig one, they start corrupting randomly.
Yes, the so
The
the g
cards themselves will randomly fucking corrupt on you.
that's why
S-
people love the Vita because they just hack the shit out of it, and then they
Well,
get the SD to
you
P
had you
to
and but you
yeah,
have to. So the only way that I, like, literally I have to, and because of, and I'm gonna everyone's, if I say it, everyone's like, "Oh, you're just like gonna try and sound all altruistic and stuff," and it's like, no, I don't hack my systems for the most part, because, like, we get sent review code and shit, and I try not to hack my systems
yeah,
because I don't want to, like, fuck up my system and be
yeah,
like, and
yep,
have to, like, put
get
in, like,
banned or something, yeah,
yeah, and get review code that I have to put in there, and
right.
be like, "Oh, well, haha, like, you fucked us over, man. You have a hacked PS3 or whatever." And I don't fucking know. I try not to hack my systems for dumb shit like that. And now it's like, well, I have to hack my fucking Vita so I can so I can back up games I legitimately fucking own,
Yeah, yeah, that's the pro
because
so
I
the
can't do it on the memory card that I
yep,
legitimately fucking bought and imported from Japan.
yes. The good news about all this is Sony people, they're freaking out, and I'm one of them too. I totally get it. I don't like this any more than anybody else. The only good news about this that I don't think a lot of people, maybe they don't realize it, or maybe they're not talking about it, because even though the store is going to be shut down ultimately in July and then later the Vita one at the end of August, is they're just saying you won't be able to buy those games anymore, but you'll still be able to download them. So if it's still assigned to your PlayStation gamer tag,
I
it'll
don't.
still
Yeah,
be
I don't. I think they're just gonna pull the plug.
s-
I think they're gonna
uh,
pull the plug.
the, well, it's eventually. So they're saying you won't be able to buy because they're shutting down the store, but the files will still be like accessible for whatever reason, which is kind of weird. So it's only so if they're shutting down the store here in the summer, they might just go ahead and say, now we're going to be shutting down like everything beginning of 2022, where you just can't download PS3, PSP, and Vita games just anymore, period. So load up your systems, load up your memory cards now.
Well,
The other thing that sucks is my PS3 is it's not a launch model PS3, but I got the Metal Gear Solid 4 80 gig
yup.
PS3 model, like the fat model that has some still software backwards compatibility with PlayStation 2 games, not hardware like the first versions did, but it's still the fat PS3, and an 80 gig hard drive after formatting is nothing. I mean, you could, it's just like the Vita. Like you don't have enough space. You just simply do not have enough storage space to really store anything. So I have to make a very critical decision. Be like, all right, I'm just going to have these, you know, 5 to 7 whatever
Yep.
PS3 games on my system for the rest of eternity.
You
Like you
could.
got to make that
You can
decision.
install, like, what you can do is, like, put a new hard drive in there, But do you know how hard it is to find a compatible hard drive with those now?
Yeah, with and plus it's not I know that then you got there's like brackets involved where because it has to like sit in the right spot and all this kind of shit. And I'm
Yeah,
like, this and like knowing me or my luck, I'm gonna do all that and then I'm gonna fuck it up and then I'm gonna like just ruin my system. So I know it's an option, but it's something that I really just I don't think I want to do.
yeah, yeah. So it's they did that, and instantly looked at it and was like, "Cool, Sony, you literally have just killed the all digital future single handedly."
And as soon as they came out with that, it's awesome because Microsoft immediately responded and said, "We love backwards compatibility. We have it in our Xbox. We have it in Game Pass. You can go back and play these first generation OG Xbox
Yeah.
games on our."
Well,
So
and
they're
that's
like,
the thing is that um one of the reasons that Sony is killing backwards compatibility as much as they can is because Sony discovered that they can sell you fucking PS2 and fucking PS
PS1, just
PS1 and PS3
remastered.
games, or not even remastered, just the games them fucking sell, excuse me,
Yeah.
on whatever the current system is, and you will fucking pay for it. They figured the
Yep.
Nintendo thing out.
Yeah, and
And
you'll do the problem is like, are they gonna port, like, all they're not
they're
all
not
those
going to port
games no.
everything. And
No, absolutely not even close. I mean, if we get 5 to 10%, that's gonna be even the
and
amazing, the games that are
and
available.
what Microsoft is figuring out is the one thing that, like, so it's funny because it's like both Sony and Microsoft seem to figure it out every other generation, is that what you end up winning over the most, what wins you the generation, is customer service. That's what wins the generation, is, like, who's going to be the best to the customers. Like, if you treat your customers like shit, they're going to end up leaving.
Yeah,
If Because
that's why I like
when no one could get your system at the very beginning of the launch, right now what you're doing doesn't really matter. Like, whatever Microsoft's doing, like, like, all of that stuff, that's fine and whatever, but it's how you're treating your customers now that really matters. And Sony's like, "Oh, well, we, handily won last generation. We can fucking do whatever we want. Xbox One fucking tanked, so fuck it. You guys, no fucking backwards compatibility for you." And Microsoft's like bending over backwards for everyone. It's like, yeah, do you wonder why people are like, I kind of want an Xbox One X. Like, all the
yeah,
first party games are like
yeah,
gonna be free, and
they're gonna be
like,
yeah, exactly.
I I
Like,
can I can
it's
play
all
my
yeah.
Xbox One, like the original Xbox games on this fucking thing, and, like, yeah, this kind of sounds like a way fucking better deal than, like, whatever the fuck Sony's trying to do to me.
Yeah, if you think about it, if you buy an Xbox Series, I hate the naming conventions, but I don't know why the hell they did that. But anyway, if you buy, let me put it this way: if you buy the latest Xbox, there's really little need, if any at all, to own an Xbox One because you can play all the
Yeah.
Xbox One games on the new Xbox. You just plug in if you got a portable hard drive, you just plug it into the new Xbox. Bam, there you go. And then of course you still have all the backwards compatibility with the 360 library and the original Xbox games. Microsoft is still giving away every month 4 free games, 2 on 360, 2 on Xbox One, and those are gonna be available forever, like, I don't they're doing the exact opposite of what Sony's doing, and if you look at the number of Game Pass subscribers,
It grows
holy
every
shit.
month.
Oh, man, like, it's Game Pass, and I've said this before, is, like, easily the best value in
And
gaming
the
today.
funny thing is that everyone who I've ever met who has canceled their Game Pass subscription cancels their Game Pass subscription because and I'm not even. I wish that this was like something that I was making up because it sounds like a marketing bullshit line. Why did you cancel your Game Pass subscription? And like, I have one friend who has canceled their Game Pass subscription, and his literal reason was it was too good of a value. He's like, it was too many games that I couldn't get to, and I was just wasting money every day.
There's so many games, they're
And
adding
it was
games,
yeah, and it's like you get hundreds of games on it, and I
on your
love that
console,
we're
your
just
PC.
shilling for this now.
It's so awesome, like, you gotta pay a little bit more, but even the money, like,
Yeah,
and plus with you got Bethesda now, all first part, like, I'm never gonna buy, like, when the new Halo comes out, never gonna buy it anymore. When
you
the new
don't
Gears
have
comes out,
to.
you don't have to buy, like, even the new MLB The Show, which is, like, a huge deal because it's coming on Xbox for the first time. It's been a Sony exclusive for how many years? Since, like,
Yep,
2013 or 14 or whatever, like,
yep.
I'm not big into sports games, but I know about the show, and I know it's a big deal, and they're just putting it for free day 1 on Game Pass. It's just, Microsoft, they're just hitting it right on the head with
And
Game Pass.
that's the thing is it's like I know so many people that are like, "Oh, I'm thinking about like building a new gaming PC." People have asked me, they're like, "Oh, I'm thinking about building a new gaming PC. What should I do?" And it's like, first thing you do, get Game Pass. And
Yeah,
end of that conversation.
yeah. Most of those games are on PC. Some games are the cross-compatible, games where you can play on your Xbox, finish it off,
Yep,
continue where you left off and stuff like
yep,
that. Xbox is even now, I think it's open to everybody, the beta version of the live streaming, so you can play on your phone.
yep,
So,
yep.
like you can just leave your Xbox on, you tap into your phone, and you can play on your phone. You bring a controller, you can play like wherever the hell you are. So they're going after even like the Stadia, streaming kind of devices too. So there's a lot to look forward to with Game Pass. I just wish there was like that killer Xbox Series X game, which is going to be Halo Infinite, but
Here's
who
the thing.
knows
I don't
when that's
think
coming
that
out.
I don't think that you necessarily need to have that right now
You
when
don't right now. You
when
think
you can't keep the product on the shelf. And that's
that's
the
the
thing
thing,
is
yeah.
it's like I've pretty much straight up said like, I'm going to buy an Xbox Series X, but I'm not going to go
I'm not
out
gonna
of
fight for it. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not going to
It
fucking like sit there at like the hot like I have a friend who has an Xbox Series X, but he pre-ordered his as soon as the pre-orders went up, which is like, good for him. I'm really glad he really is into Xbox and he really likes Destiny. So that's like it was a
sure, yeah.
must have for him. But like for me, no. Absolutely not. And I'm not, and
What
it's 6 months out and it's
yeah,
still
here's
souls out instantly.
and it's this is exactly what I was gonna bring up. When in the history of video games has a console released 6 months ago, there's no games for it, little to no killer apps for either PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, but the systems sell out literally the second they are available. Like there's nothing next gen to play on them. And there's not going to be anything significant next gen to play on them for another 6 months. I don't know. Like there's really no huge noteworthy
I
titles.
don't know why they're selling out this fast.
I
I
don't like
really
that's
don't.
yeah, I don't get it either. Like, what do you people freak out and they buy this stuff. It's like, what are you gonna play? You're just playing PS4 games and you're playing Xbox One games on your latest console. Like, I don't understand. Like, there's no if there was like a new Mario game, you're gonna wanna buy the new Nintendo. If there is that new Halo game, the new Gears, you're gonna wanna play that. If there's a new Final Fantasy, whatever, that's exclusive to Sony, right? Like, let's just say, for example, then yeah, that's a system seller. You're gonna wanna buy the system to play that game. There is no system sellers at all right now, and so why are they selling out? It's still 6 months ago. It released 6 months ago, and you still can't buy one, and what for what? Like, I'm so baffled by this phenomenon that I don't even know what to think of. Like, when nothing this has never happened in history before. Like,
I
you
think the
know
PS2 is the closest that it came. And like
PS2 is different because it had, here's your DVD
it
player and
would yeah, I was
here's
gonna say like that
backwards
was
compatible, yeah, still with the PS1 game. So,
it
but
was
and that is
different then.
yeah, it was still a little bit different then because, but now it's just it blows my mind. I don't get it, and I'm just frustrated because we could have gotten there was an Xbox One game, there was the latest uh, tennis simulator game that I could have gotten, but I wrote the dude back. I was like, "Hey man, look, I want to review this because I reviewed all the other ones over the last 2 3 years. I want to play this new version, but
But
I don't have a new
yeah,
PS5 and I don't have an Xbox. So it's like you could send me a code and I'll cover it eventually, but who knows when the hell that I can
yeah.
snag one?
I
And that
can't promise
it,
you.
yeah, and like here's the thing, like we are let's on we're in the industry. Well, I'm gonna say we're on the very, the
Yeah,
very
we're
outer
yeah,
perimeter of the industry, right? But we're in it. We're there, and we can't even buy one of these damn systems and fight the masses. Like I will gladly pay my own money to give one. But I just can't. It's so frustrating right now.
yep,
So anyway, that's been story of seasons. We went totally off the rails there, but
as we always do.
that's okay. But yeah, this has been story of seasons that we've been playing. We are from mygamer.com. Go there, put us in your favorites, check us out, news, reviews, streams, previews, all that good stuff. You can follow us at mygamer news, and you can follow me on Twitter at ZackGaz, ZackGaz. And until next time, thank you for watching and game on.